Welcome. My name is Martijn van Boven. I'm here to talk a little bit about a master program that I'm currently developing with my colleague Judith van der Boom, the head from product design. And the Art Academy always requires me to show this still.
It's really beautiful.
Thanks. And yeah, and that's our building in Arnhem. And I rather normally stand on stage with a laser instead with keynotes. So I'll just continue a little bit with a presentation where I'm trying to show to you is like how Judith and I actually came to this master program. We started in 2013 with a series of minor programs for our bachelor degree program, where we try to merge the two departments of product and interaction design. This led to some collaborations with students, which we showcased at the Dutch Design Week in 2014. And after that, we started to think about how we could sort of develop a program where we could sort of, find different ways on opening up research and prototyping, which is not only based within the field of interaction design or in the field of product design. And also formulating new approaches that deal with scale and impact of like the technological spheres. But also what we're trying to think about is that how can we sort of connect artists and designers and thinkers and institutions not only at our base station in Arnhem, but also throughout the world. And all of a sudden we start to think about what's actually the importance of traveling and sort of the working on location. And this is still sort of a dream of mine that I have. It's sort of having a sea container as a sort of a mobile lab, and you can actually sort of, pack all your equipment and actually go to another location somewhere on the world, and also use this container with all the output that you've produced, and then bring it back. And it also serves as a very practical issue that we have at Art Academy, is to get rid of all the problems we have with where to put all our students and their stuff. The Continuum program, it's currently in development. We just had our first installment, which we had in past November. And we're going to sort of research in sort of 4 installments over 2 years, some sort of core values, which will enable participants to form a symbiosis in research and practice. And these Continuum sort of core values are based on location, on technology, instrument, geology, and connectedness. And so the location, we're sort of looking into sort of the importance of immersiveness and resources. So what does it mean when you're sort of immersed in a location, and what kind of different kind of resources you can actually use in order to create your work? But of course, also the importance of the holistic importance of technology. But also we're trying to find out sort of what is the relationship between materiality, the uniqueness of working with materials, but also, let's say, modern versions of sensors. How can we sort of sense the surroundings? But we're also very much sort of output-driven. We really want our students to produce something. This always sort of makes me think of this, what was it? So this clip where you have James Brown at some 25th anniversary of some record label, and then he asked Prince on stage, and Prince is sort of standing around it, and James Brown says, "You've got to do something. You know, you just cannot just stand on stage and just behave, but you also actually have to produce some work." But also some more abstract aspects of what does it mean, how technology influences natural resources, but also vice versa, sort of how sort of natural resources are forming technological development. And also sort of concepts of online learning, so connected learning, but also trying to search students that can sort of collaborate together based on individual specialisms and also their own kind of methodologies. So, in November, we went for our first trip to Shenzhen. And the reason was actually quite simple, because when you talk about Shenzhen, people already have a lot of ideas about it. Maybe people know it just by name, but maybe for other people it already sort of encompasses a lot about sort of the global trade and sort of the location where most of our technology is being produced. So what we did is that we invited Mario de Vega and Victor Mazon, you can see him on the right, and with a group of 4 students, Meike, Miron, and Michelle and Iris, and we sort of put them in a workshop. And from there on, we started to have like a 4-week workshop, sort of a pressure cooker, focusing on the idea of a transition. And also the reason why we went to Shenzhen, because you have this sort of this collision of this sort of the maker movement and the technological industry. And I find it personally quite fascinating, is that in Holland it's quite difficult to find individual parts, electronic parts, and that out of these electronic parts you can maybe create your own phone, which is in Holland quite impossible to do so, I would say. But in Shenzhen, in theory, that is possible. But also, we went to Shenzhen for the social interaction. So what does it mean if you travel to a place instead of doing all your research online? So what's the difference between developing some skill set through fieldwork or observations or just dialogues? And that aspect you also will see later on in the talk by Miron. And it's also the idea that you can actually do a lot of prototyping. And that's also where Shenzhen is quite famous for. A lot of small studios, also West European or North American studios, they have small sort of offices in Shenzhen because it allows them to sort of rapidly develop new concepts. So, we went with 4 students, as I said. They are all alumni from ArtEZ. Meike Pasman, she finished product design. Iris de Vries, she also finished product design last year, if I'm not mistaken, with a sort of anonymous sort of glasses, which sort of allow you not to be sort of trackable through facial recognition. Michelle van Olsey finished her interaction design degree also last year with a really amazing 16mm developing machine, which was acquired by the iFilm Institute. And Miron Galik, he finished graphic design with a very fascinating screen capture animation film about mainly his connection with his motherland. And of course, Mario de Vega and Victor Mazon, they were the workshop, they led the workshops mainly, and they were invited by Sonic Acts. And that's maybe another important thing that I should tell, is that what we're trying to establish also with this Continuum program is some sort of collaboration between Continuum and Sonic Acts, because I think it's also important to search for different kinds of stages for students to present their work, and not only in the context of an academia. So, that was my brief introduction. So I would like to invite Michelle and Iris and Miron here on stage. And we're going to have 3 presentations. First by Iris. Yeah, you're first. Oh, no, sorry. Oh, no, it's Michelle. Jeez. I even can't read my own slide. After Michelle, we'll have presentation by Iris, and then we finish with the presentation by Miron. Thank you. Yeah, sure.
Do I get a mic, or shall I speak loud?
There's a mic coming up.
Chapter 1. Accidentally became a hooker, 13 November 2017. Yes, you read the title correctly. That's what happened this evening. I accidentally turned into a hooker without even being aware of it. We sat outside for dinner at a street barbecue in an urban village called Bashizu. I was experiencing stomach aches, but I still wanted to join the group for dinner, while one of our tutors, Mario, arrived in the evening. Iris, one of the other participants of the program, noticed a guy with light green dyed hair. I had already observed him 10 minutes earlier. She commented that in the past few days, I had been looking at good-looking Asian guys as possible models for the video I'm planning to make. We finish eating and my stomach starts to feel slightly better. I turn my head over to observe the light green dyed hair guy. He's sitting with 4 friends, including one girl. They are playing computer games on their phones. Our teacher, Thomas Castro, noticed me looking. He agrees that the light green dyed hair guy is good looking. I walk over to the light green dyed hair guy. I expect him to speak English, but I find out quickly he doesn't. I take my phone and open Google Translate. I write the following. Hello, my name is Michelle. I'm making a video. I would like to film your face. Are you okay with that? Chinese translation. He's nodding. It seems he's okay with it, although his attention quickly skips back to the computer game. I can't get grip on the situation. Does he really like being filmed, or does he agree with it just to be polite? I'm in doubt whether he understands that I don't want to film him here. I don't even have my camera. To make this clear, I write the following. I would like to do it one time during the day. Can I add you on WeChat? Then I contact you later. Chinese translation. Immediately, the light green dyed hair guy behaves differently. I don't understand why. I leave. I'm confused. I thought he was okay with it in the beginning. I walk back to the table where the rest of my group is sitting. Wen Yin, our translator, asks what happened. I show her the conversation on Google Translate. She starts laughing. It turns out, by asking the light green dyed hair guy to do it one time during the day, Google Translate asked him to have sex with me tomorrow during the day. Besides a huge miscommunication, I think the light green dyed hair guy wasn't sure about being filmed from the beginning. It felt as if I picked the most insecure guy from class, and he felt pressure to say yes. In this case, maybe it isn't due to insecurity. Maybe it is because of a difference in culture, where in the Netherlands everyone always has an opinion ready. Here they won't say no, even though they want to say no, simply because there is no single word in the Chinese language matching the word no. I just read 1 out of 4 stories that I wrote about my trip to Shenzhen, and I made a book out of that. And in this book, I explain my struggles, how I tried to make a film in China. And I now want to continue reading the last 2 paragraphs of the last chapter. And this chapter is called Silence for 9 Hours. And I just came back from, I just came back home. And I spent an entire day with a random Chinese guy. And we were only able to communicate via WeChat. That's an app where we could like translate everything, because he also didn't speak English, similar as the first guy. Okay. Today, I spent the entire day with the blue hair guy. I filmed him at several locations through Shenzhen. The hardest part of not being able to communicate by speech is that the moment you write something, that moment is already gone. No space to get to know someone's personality. He was telling me constantly he was having a good time. I wonder why. Did he really enjoy being filmed? Or did he just enjoy my company? Or did he like it because of my origin? Or did he like it because he sees it as an opportunity to escape China into Western civilization? At one point, he literally asked, "You are taking me out of China? Does my pale skin, my wet hair, my length, my nose, my eyes represent a window to a world that is unknown to him? Maybe I'm standing in an unfair position by making a video in this context." They regret to say no. They have not been taught to question the opinions and authorities from others, and they are unable to reach out to people out of China due to social media borders and language barriers. I will make a video though, a silent one. As silent as I felt today, having the WeChat conversations of me and the blue-eyed guy as subtitles.
到了咱这边地区啊。
Eén keer naar rechts, hè? Okay, so, it's okay. All the projects I'm going to do and all the products that I will make in the future will be influenced by our trip to Shenzhen. I'm not going to talk to you about the projects that I already started. I want to show you how the books that I was reading, how the documentaries that I saw, how my graduation project and my interest come together in Shenzhen. And I'm going to show you the questions that arose from that.
要攞咧。
I have the feeling that in China, design companies and other companies are working on products to better kids' behavior more than in, for example, the Netherlands, where I come from. And do you think that has to do with the one-child policy?
对，就现在不能就输在起跑线上嘛。然后我们希望有小孩子就是可能，其实现在国内很多小孩的教育都是也是在引进国外的一些就是教育的一些体系，然后让他们可以思路可以更多维度的一些发展，不仅说是传统书背的一些东西了。
像我觉得现在就是中国父母好像非常非常的注重小孩子的教育。
对，那肯定是必须的，比如有什么特长班要报。
He's saying it's not only at this child's product. The whole Chinese technology is developed very fast, and there are many areas developed very fast. And I think this product for children is just one chance for business. It's a good opportunity for business because Chinese parents they really want their children have a very good education. The product is one way to help them to achieve the goals. He's saying it's not.
Je moet gewoon naar rechts drukken, toch? Echt? Okay. So, my name is Miron Garic. I'm a designer, and today I'm going to talk to you about 3 works which I made in which my personal usage with my iPhone 5S plays a huge role. But first, I'm going to talk to you about, very briefly, about Yugi. Yugi is the protagonist of the 2000s anime series Yu-Gi-Oh!, which I loved as a kid. The 2000s anime series Yu-Gi-Oh! Revolves around a weird-ass card game called Monsters Duel, in which the players of the card game try to defeat each other by summoning weird-ass monsters and traps and other mystical stuff in order to attack each other. And this is Yugi, he's the protagonist. He's holding his Millennium Puzzle, which he got from his grandfather. The Millennium Puzzle is an ancient, magical, secret, amulet-like object, which Yugi spent 8 years trying to solve it in order to unlock its powers, its many secrets, in order to help him become a better human being, but also a better card player. This is me, and that is my iPhone, and it has the same red circle that Yugi's Millennium Puzzle has, which has to mean something. So yeah, I don't have a Millennium Puzzle, nor do I engage in the weird-ass monster battle kind of activities that Yugi engages in, but I do have my iPhone, which in itself boasts a lot of other secrets and interfacial features for me to puzzle and dive into and try to unlock their secret powers. So yeah, just a nice analogy. I'm going to talk to you about three works. The first one is very unfinished and formless. It's called Stopwatch. I made it in 2017 before going to Shenzhen, and it illustrates very well how I deal with the iPhone and how I try to. Let's just talk about the work. The work resulted from me turning on the stopwatch on the default clock app on my iPhone, turning it on exactly 12 a.m. so that instead of it becoming a normal stopwatch, it starts to take on the form of a regular clock. It synchronizes with the local time instead of being the normal stopwatch clock app for which it was designed and meant to be used by its original creator working for Apple. But it's very light and very simple, but there's something tragic about it because I have to take all these measurements, all these, all this precision in order to transform my stopwatch into a clock, as if we don't have enough clocks in the world already. So there's something tragic about that. But then in the next step, it's very illustrative for my way of working, because in the next step, after coming back from Shenzhen, because I went to Shenzhen with a group of people, after coming back from Shenzhen, I turned my stopwatch on, not on 12 a.m. local time, but on 5 o'clock afternoon local time. And because of the time difference with Shenzhen, the Stopwatch app started to synchronize with the time in Shenzhen, China, the place where I was at for the month. And as some of you might know, that the factories that produce my iPhone and all of your iPhones, they are housed in Shenzhen, China. So instead of the work being merely a trick for me to transform my stopwatch into a clock, it starts to talk about time differences and distance and the notion of travel, and also about the working times. It can potentially talk about the working times of the factory workers that live and work in Shenzhen, that have assembled my iPhone, and I have to deal with these things. And even though I went there and I tried to get into the village and stuff like that, I still don't know if I want my work to talk about these things. But that's why I call it a working title, an unfinished thing. But it's very illustrative for my way of working. Let's see. Gonna talk about another work. It's called Drake, Jaden, Duck, and it's a work that consists of 2 digital images, 2 JPEGs. They exist online on my personal website, and you're looking at one of the JPEGs right now, and the other JPEG is a text piece which I converted and designed back to JPEG, and they both exist on my website. And I'm going to read the text piece out loud right now while you hopefully enjoy the image. Is the sound okay, by the way? I never talk into microphones. Drake, Jaden, Duck, 2018. Oil painting, travel bag, iPhone photo, text. On the 25th of August, 2013, Jaden Smith, son of Will Smith, most famous for his role in the sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, attended a performance by the Canadian rapper Aubrey Drake Graham at the 30th installment of the MTV Video Music Awards, held at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. During Drake's performance, Jaden was seen making a praying hands gesture, presumably out of excitement. The following September, that same year, Drake was photographed performing live at the iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas, Nevada, wearing a long-sleeved shirt featuring a large photo of Jaden Smith making the praying hands gesture, taken at Drake's VMA performance of the previous month. 2 years later, while searching for stock photos of Drake through Google Images on my iPhone 5S, I learned that Drake has a namesake which happens to be the English word for male duck. Surprised and slightly amused, I scrolled through a Google image search and decided to take a bunch of screenshots of thumbnails of Drake paired with thumbnails of ducks. One particular screenshot features the thumbnail of Drake, spreading his arms, mirroring the spread wings of the flying duck on the thumbnail next to it. On Drake's shirt, we see Jaden Smith making the praying hands gesture, now appearing to look excitedly at the flying duck on the second thumbnail. A year later, in November 2017, I fly from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, to Shenzhen, Guangdong, China, the city in which my iPhone was built, and where Google is rendered inaccessible by China's Great Firewall. When visiting a suburb named Dafen, an urban village housing a large number of professional painters, known for their replicas of many famous oil paintings, a man called Ying invites me over for tea with him and his wife, after which I ask him to make an oil painting of the screenshot of Drake, Jaden, and the duck, in the size of my travel bag. A couple of days later, I pick up the painting, we shake hands and say goodbye. Back in Amsterdam, I take a photo of the painting using the same iPhone I took the screenshots with and upload the photograph, as well as this text as JPEGs on my personal website. allowing both of them to reappear in a future Google image search. Again, I just had this small observation in my iPhone, this small screenshot in which I interpreted an interfacial feature of both my iPhone and the way Google looks when I open it on my iPhone. I interpreted it in like my own way, and because my telephone is such like a small compact object and I can take it anywhere I want, based on the location where I decide to execute or where I decide to like further my experiment, based on location, it can become much more about the original observation. So as you can see here, instead of that the whole work is about my iPhone and about Drake, my iPhone is just like, in the end, my iPhone just ended up as a MacGuffin, which is like a literary narrative device, which is used to weave plot elements, characters, details, and twists together to create the final narrative, which you have all just listened to. Another work that I want to talk about is called Group Portrait. When verbal communication fails, one asks his comrades to take place in a line based on the amount of power left on the batteries of their smartphones. So this is a postcard, and this is when we were in Shenzhen, we were working in this studio space. The studio space that had all kinds of equipment, computers, 3D printers, whatever. And working alongside of us were these four guys that were designing and programming stuff there, and they could help us if we asked them. And I was working there, like just being there, being with them, but it was very hard to communicate with them because I can't speak Mandarin or what's the other, Cantonese. I can, and they weren't able to speak English, so there was like this language barrier. But we were still like, we're all nerds and geeks, and we like programming, and we were there like all the time. So there was some kind of weird bond that we sort of shared together, and like in order for me to capture this bond, to feel more connected to them, I just asked them all to go outside with me for a group portrait in which I lined us up from left to right based on the amount of power left on the smartphone battery. So we sort of became like a human smartphone battery, and it was like it was very weird because we cannot share like any word together, but here we really felt connected, and I hope that's visible. And in the yeah, I'm serious. And it's a postcard, so I ended up sending it to them to the address of the studio, and I didn't write anything on there because it would defeat the whole purpose of the method. And yeah, here actually again, it's just like a small like joke that I came up with once out of boredom to line up people based on the amount of power left on their smartphone batteries. But because I never executed and I waited for the right time and place, location, whatever, the right people to execute it with, it became this thing in which it's about much more than just the joke. But it becomes, you know, whatever. I want to close out with another analogy to Yu-Gi-Oh! This is Exodia, the Forbidden One, and it's extremely like, you know, it's cards, like it's the card game that I spoke about. And this is these are 5 cards, and together they make up Exodia, the Forbidden One, and it's an extremely rare set of cards and extremely hard to collect, and therefore extremely hard to summon, because you not only have to own all of the 5 cards, if you're, you know, an anime character within the universe of Yu-Gi-Oh. You don't, but you, so it's already hard to own them, but you also have to have all 5 of them in your hand at the same time. And if you have that, then like beautiful stuff will happen. But you will have to have patience and luck, and the stars will have to be aligned in the right way for you to execute this. And I think in some way the same counts for the way I work with this thing. So, yeah.